Welcome to this August webinar, where we are going to quickly look at some of the sustainable approaches for a greener future. As usual, we will start with the word of prayer. So I call upon Ivy to take us through a word of prayer as we start.
Good morning, everyone. Let's pray. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for this beautiful day that you've given us. Thank you for your love upon us. Thank you for bringing us together once again in this webinar. We invite you, Lord, to give us wisdom and insight even as we continue. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. So again, as we start, let me just go through some housekeeping rules. So all people are muted on arrival, and then this session is being recorded, and even if we take screenshots, the same will be used for future record and sharing. Then please use the chat and note the person that you want, the panelist you are asking the question to. So we have a question and answer part, and those questions will be answered accordingly. So we have a long, short day ahead of us with a very great team that is going to be leading us through a couple of topics. So we have a welcome from our chairman, and then we have some opening remarks from the chair of the CEC Agriculture Caucus, Dr. Kiplimo. Then we have some remarks from the Ministry of Agriculture, where we have Daktari with us here, and also the coffee desk at the Ministry of Agriculture. Then we also have some opportunities to discuss what is happening with the EU deforestation legislation, where we are glad to have Isabella with us from the European Coffee Federation, who will touch a bit on that. Then we also are going to be harnessing some agroforestry opportunity. We have Dr. Kagombe from TEFRI, who is going to take us through that. And then also exploring carbon credit opportunities with Kitupa from Solidaridad. So welcome all, and without further ado, I want to call on our chairman just to then give us the remarks, and we'll put him on camera too. Sorry to say my name, but we are all in one room. So over to you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, George, and ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to our today's webinar. And like you all know, KCP, or Kenya Coffee Platform, is an inclusive county and national multi-stakeholder. We bring stakeholders together so that we have a collaborative forum that seeks to provide a platform for coffee stakeholders, both public and private, to freely interact and then discuss, deliberate, and address critical and pre-competitive issues affecting the coffee industry. So one of our major roles is, of course, to have this platform so that it can serve in an inclusive space where the coffee stakeholders can discuss and articulate on issues of coffee matters. I think for today, we have very rich information that we would like to share with you. We know the government has got a plan to have at least 15 billion trees planted by 2032. In coffee, we have opportunities for agroforestry, whereby we need also to see how, apart from just growing coffee, how we can as well diversify and be able to bring in more income, maximizing on our land use. So I think mine is more to welcome all of you And we hope that in between, we'll be asking you what other topics you would like us to share, so that we can prepare for such webinars before the end of the year. We hope that at least we can have once a month when we can have these webinars, and we believe with the topics that we will be preparing, they'll keep our stakeholders in coffee abreast with the activities that are taking place. So I think those are my opening remarks, George. You can move on and invite our other guests. Thank you very much and welcome.
Sorry, I think I had muted myself. Apoyo, Daktari, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Good evening, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
All right, then you can hear me. Thank you. Allow me to say a big thank you to the leadership of the Kenya Coffee Platform for a number of initiatives they have taken in the Kenyan coffee industry. I also want to thank the leadership once again for organizing such an important forum for us to discuss issues that pertain to deforestation and forest degradation, and how we can also coexist and benefit while farming coffee as a business in Kenya. I think after this discussion, we are going to have a very strategic direction that we are going to be given following this discussion. And I thank the members for finding time to join this forum. First, the Agriculture and Food Authority, we are very much pleased to be included in all the forums that the Kenya Coffee Platform have been organizing, and this is not the first one. So just allow me to appreciate the fact that biodiversity is essential for the resilience of ecosystems, and we cannot ignore their services both at local and also at global level. We know that half of our global production depends on nature and its services. And particularly three major economic sectors like construction, agriculture, and food and drink, all these depend highly on nature, and therefore biodiversity, therefore, is very critical for the survival of the farming community. Coffee specifically is much related to, directly related to the biodiversity, and any biodiversity loss threatens the sustenance of the coffee production in Kenya. We are humbled to be part of this forum so that we can be able to discuss and get the way forward on several industrial sections that as a subsector. We know coffee is very rich and related to the benefits of the forest within the region. We know that coffee, for it to take place, there's a lot of pollination which must take place. And where forest is available, then the issue of pollination is highly enhanced, and that one enhances production. Therefore, Chair, we at Coffee Directorate, we are very much humbled and honored to be part of this forum and take cognizance that quite a number of people, in fact, it's estimated that over 420 million hectares is under forest. So we as a country, we know we are supposed to contribute to the increase of hectareage under forest. And in our strategic plan for the year 2023-2028, what the Agriculture and Food Authority has done is that each and every officer, our working staff, has been tasked to plant 500 trees in a year. That is what we have been given. You can participate, you can make sure that you buy and support the community. That is what we have been given as a target. So for this forum resonates well with what our clarion call in the country is that we need to increase the forest coverage in this country. I mean, I would just like to acknowledge the fact that we are together in this, and this one is going to help us to increase the coffee production. We have seen the moments of good tides, where last year we increased our production to 51,000 metric ton. And this one also increased our revenue to about 34 billion Kenya shillings. This is very important, having moved from about 27 billion, which we have been realizing. So we know that with increased production, which is supported a direct link to the ecosystems, we know that when we take care of our environment, we are going to increase the Kenyan production. By conclusion, I just want to say that the forest ecosystems have to cope with a multiple of pressures caused by the climate change, and we are aware of this. And these extreme climate weather conditions are not good for the ecosystems of pests and human-related activities. And this will negatively affect the coffee production, if at all we have got global warming and other related effects accruing from the forest degradation, deforestation and forest degradation. So I just want to thank you, Chair, and I hope we shall enrich the discussion, and I request that we don't leave, we remain focused so that we can contribute to the discussion. With those few remarks, I want to thank you, Chair, for giving us opportunity to be part and parcel of this important event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daktari, for your kind words, and also for giving us an update on what is happening, especially from the government and so on. So without further ado, I want to move a bit further to one of the main parts of the session. So we are very glad this morning to have with us, all the way from Brussels, early in the morning, Isabel Lemens, who is the Sustainability Manager of the European Coffee Federation, who will just give us a small overview about what requirements are there with the EUDR And without further ado, welcome Isabel, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, George, and thank you for the invitation. It's a real pleasure to be here with you this morning. So yes, as announced, I would just like to present briefly the new EU deforestation regulation and its challenges and opportunities that may come out of it as well. If you can go to the next slide, please. So in 2 words, who we are as a European Coffee Federation. So we are the only organization representing the European coffee trade and industry in Europe. We were created in 1981, and we promote the sector's common interest. In total, we do have 16 national associations and 38 companies member, representing over 750 companies. And the total import volume that we represent is around 40 million coffee bags, or 35% of the world traded volume. If we go to the next slide, please. So quickly, our role is really to facilitate the development of an environment in which the industry can meet the needs of consumers and society, competing effectively and ensuring the long-term sustainability of the coffee supply chain. So we do offer a transparent platform to exchange information, collaborate, and share knowledge as well. And we do advocate a lot towards the European Union in the legislative processes. So this is why we do follow very closely on the regulatory framework. So no, you can go to the next slide, no worries. So just a brief introduction. How do we come to talk about the EUDR today? So it all really started with the European Green Deal that was adopted in 2019 by the European Commission, and afterwards the Council and the European Parliament. And the aim was really to become the new EU growth strategy to have a fair and prosperous society. So they wanted really to focus the EU bloc on the path to sustainable future, and to have the first climate neutral bloc by 2050. So how did they envision this? By having like over 20 transformative initiatives, like big ones, such as the biodiversity strategy or the farm to fork strategy. And under all of those initiatives, several regulation or directive proposals came out of them. So just as a few examples, so in 2021,
Then
the
there was just
deforestation...
nothing else in this opening session. Then we are proceeding. We are late.
Sorry. Okay. That was not a question. Okay, perfect. So in 2021, the deforestation proposal came out. In 2022, corporate sustainability due diligence. June 2022, linked to the use of plant protection products, including in producing countries. And in September last year, a proposal of a regulation to prohibit products made with forced labor on the union market. So those are just a few examples, but there are several ones on the maximum residue limits of plant protection products as well. So this is just to give like a quick overview of why we're talking about the EUDR today. So if we go to the next slide, please. Let's really dive into the EUDR. So the objectives of the EU with this deforestation regulation proposal is threefold. So answering citizens' demand to have like deforestation-free products, reduce the EU's contribution to the global deforestation, as it's estimated that around 8% of global deforestation is due to the European Union, leading the way to a global level. So they want like a consumption-driven avoid consumption-driven deforestation, and encouraging partners countries to step up the protection of the forest on the territories as well, through cooperation programs, the benchmarking system, and the different market incentives in the regulation. So those are the objectives of the EU. If we go to the next slide, please, we can really dive into the content and the timeline. So yes, so not going to go into the details. So it was proposed in November 2021. It was adopted at the end in April 2023. It was published in the official journal in May. and it entered into force on the, it was published in, made a mistake, it was in June, so sorry, I will correct that to share the slide. So on the 9th of June, 2023, it was published in the official journal, and 29th of June entered into force. And so 18 months later, on the 30th of December, 2024, it will enter into application, and with a 6-month extension for small and medium enterprises. So if we go to the next slide, we can see the content. So what's in that text, really? So you do have mandatory due diligence rules applicable to operators putting products on the EU market, making them available on the market, or exporting them from the EU market. So the idea is that the products have to be deforestation free and legal to be allowed on the EU market, and all shipments need to be accompanied by a due diligence statement. So it has to be the definitions of deforestation, for example, are based on international definition, such as the FAO, and main obligations apply to operators and non-SME traders. So it's for the ones like, so operator is the one importing the product on the EU market, and the trader in the EU sense is the one making it available, so selling it directly on the market. So in terms of traceability, one of the major element of the regulation, which is also one of the biggest challenge, is to have the strict traceability linking the commodity to the plot of land where it was produced. And the legality aspect, that is also like one of the 3 criteria, is that the product needs to be produced legally according to the laws of the country of production. And it also includes not only deforestation aspects for the legality, but also human rights and labor rights aspects. So can you hear me? Because I can see like someone saying no sound.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. So if we go to the next slide, so this is the due diligence statement that will need to be submitted every time an operator imports a product targeted in the regulation in the EU market. And in that due diligence statement, you will see that the point 3 is like a crucial one, in the sense that you have to have the country of production and geolocation of all plots of land where the commodities were produced. So geolocation, yes, so it means like, in theory, if a cooperative works with like 600 plantations, coffee plantations, in theory, and that goes in the container, you would need to know exactly those 600 geolocation coordinates. So this is one of the major aspect of this regulation. So if we go to the next slide, we can see the requirements in terms of really due diligence procedure for the operator importing the product. So first, you need to collect a lot of information to prove that the product is deforestation free, and you have to submit this due diligence statement. So in the due diligence statement, it's exactly what is in the previous slide, so nothing more, but you need to collect a lot more information than that. And it's clearly said that certification schemes are not sufficient to comply with the regulation. They can be used if you use, for example, 4C or Rainforest Alliance. This can be used to do your due diligence procedure, but it's not sufficient to delegate the responsibility. So as mentioned, for the geolocation, so if it's a plot less than 4 hectares, you just need one coordinate, latitude and longitude. If it's more than 4 hectares, you need sufficient points of the plot to define really its shape and the perimeter of the plot. So this information requirement in due diligence statement is always needed, like for every shipment into the EU. And then, depending on the level of risk, we'll see it a little bit later, but of the benchmarking, so each producing countries will be assigned a level of risk, so low, standard, or high risk for deforestation. And if it's like standard and high risk countries, there are 2 extra steps to take. for the operator. So the operator needs to make a risk assessment, and the product can only be put on the EU market if it's like no or negligible risk of deforestation. And then risk mitigation measures. So they give examples such as audits, supporting compliance of suppliers, independent surveys, and different capacity building and investment that operators can do. And then in general, for all the operators that are not small and medium enterprises or natural persons, they have to report on the due diligence procedure and the different imports that they had on an annual basis. So this is more or less the responsibility of the operator in the text. But if we go to the next slide. So we've seen the obligations of the operators, but not what's exactly targeted in the scope of this regulation. So for now, I insist on this, for now, it's 7 commodities and derived products. So palm oil, soy, wood, cattle, cocoa, coffee, rubber, and some derived products. So you have a complete list in the Annex 1. And it's important to know that, for example, a soap in which you put palm oil, for example, will not be in the scope because it's not directly listed. The HS code is not directly listed in the annex. So you will be able to see exactly what is targeted in that list. For coffee, it's the code 0901. So it's like a coffee, like green and roasted coffee, decaffeinated or not. And you will notice that soluble coffee is not in the scope. We flag this to the European Commission, and it will be included in the next review. So in theory, in 2 years. So this is for coffee, exactly the code that is in the scope. So the EU wants this regulation to be non-discriminatory. So it applies to both imported, domestically produced products and exported products. As I said, it has a progressive scope. So first now it covers forests and some commodities and derived products. But the idea is really to update the scope of the regulation on an ongoing basis. For the deforestation-free criteria, the cutoff date is the 31st of December 2020. So it's aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations and other international standards. This is why they chose this date. And as mentioned before, so the regulation will assign a level of risk to the countries or the regions. So it's like in the text, countries or parts thereof, according to the risk of deforestation. So if we go to the next slide, please. So it's more or less, as I mentioned before, so simplified due diligence, so really the first part in the information collection and the due diligence statement for low risk countries only. And the level of inspections for member states, like EU member states, they have to perform a number of checks according to the level of risk of the origin country. So 9% of the shipments and the operators for high-risk countries, 3% for standard risk countries, and 1% for low-risk countries. In theory, it's the EU member states that lay down the rules and penalties, but the regulation gives some example or guidance. And for example, the fines need to be at minimum 4% of the total annual union-wide turnover of the financial year preceding the fine decision. So this is why you can see, like, as the European companies would be the operators, it has a very huge impact, and it's really the hot topic at the moment. In terms of the review, as mentioned, they would look at other wooded land in a year, other ecosystems or commodities, and the inclusion of financial institutions in the text within 2 years, and other, such as the impact on smallholder farmers of the regulation only in 5 years. So in theory, the European Commission is supposed to step up cooperation with partner countries, and they also want to intensify engagement with different consuming countries, such as the United States, China, Canada, Japan, Australia. The idea is really to try to have a common approach to deforestation and to avoid as well diversion to different markets with the commodities. So if we go to the next slide, please. So we do have the text, a lot of unknown aspects or still aspects to be clarified in the text. So the European Commission is supposed, it has a list of tasks to do in order to be ready for the entry into application. So different aspects, they're going to work on an information system. So the idea is like to have an interactive platform online on which every operator can submit the due diligence statement. And the idea is really to have this interaction between the European Commission system, the competent authorities for the check, and the customs authorities. So this will be ready in theory for the entry into application. So it will take time. And the benchmarking of the countries of production, the same. It will be, the list will be published in an implementing act. And the idea is to have this list by the entry into application. So by default, all countries will be considered as standards. And so the operator will have to do the 3 steps for the due diligence, the information collection, the risk assessment, and the risk mitigations. The European Commission is supposed to produce guidelines, but it takes a lot of time. So for now, they just come up with some Q&A with like around 58 questions and answers, but still it lacks clarity, and there are many aspects that still need to be defined for the implementation. And as I said, the European Commission is the one in charge of taking this review based on an impact assessment and the legislation proposal. So the first one on the other wooded land, this is already in the pipeline because it will be even in before the entry into application, then the commodities, and then the impact on smallholders. And the last task that the Commission is planning to do is to work with the Joint Research Center. It depends on the European Commission, on a reference map. So they do want to have a reference map for the cutoff date of 31st of December 2020 with the situation of forest and deforestation in the whole world. So this is what they're working on as well, to be able to have this reference map on which they can compare if deforestation has happened or not. So this was like the text of the regulation and the Commission tasks. So quickly about the challenges and opportunities. Challenges, the main one is even for the first part that every shipment will need to have, there are 3 aspects that are very challenging, such as the strict traceability, so the geolocation coordinates. Then to know if the plot is in a deforestation free or non-deforested area, this is challenging as well. And then the strict traceability from the plot to the container, it is very challenging with the intermediaries and the specificities of the different countries to know exactly if the coffee bean from that plot is the one arriving in Europe. So this is a challenge that will still need to be overcome. In terms of opportunities, I think this regulation has offered us the opportunity to be a lot more to work together in the coffee sector. I mean, we've seen that there's a lot of exchanges between producing and consuming countries, different consuming countries as well through different fora. So we are really all working together to try to find solution to be able to comply with this regulation and be able to, for producing countries to be able to export to the EU and for the European companies to be able to import as well in the EU. So there are, I'm really sorry, I have a cold. And so there are a lot of synergies, and collaboration has really increased a lot in the last year to really focus on this text. So now the idea is, for example, for us to work with the different EU tools and try to find different producing countries and try to find like pilot projects or tests to see how we can try to overcome those challenges in each countries. So we have been in contact with the European Space Program Agency, and the idea is really to be in contact. We've been in contact with George as well to discuss this, to see how we can all collaborate on those pilot projects and try to have solutions that we can present to the European Commission as well, so that they can validate the method. So this is in a nutshell, like to finish on a more positive note than the challenges of the regulation, what I wanted to share. And if you have any question, don't hesitate. The text can be a little bit like heavy to digest, but I hope I was clear.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Isabel. And also, thank you very much for taking time. I think it's still 7 o'clock in Brussels for you to join us this morning.
Almost 8 now.
Yeah, so we are very grateful for that. And I think to the team, if there is anyone with a question, we have the question and answer part of the webinar. You can put that, and then we can have the questions presented to Isabel for answers. But I don't know, just as a quick one, whether there is anyone in the group with a very specific question, because I didn't see any in the chat. Anyone with any specific question that maybe Isabel can answer before we move on to the next speaker. But we are very grateful for you helping us,
Thank you.
put in light, and also as a country to help us prepare, so that then we are not caught unawares as the buyer of almost a third of the world coffee, and as the market for almost 55% of our coffee. It's quite important for us that we keep abreast and prepare ourselves. And as much as we can collaborate, we'll make sure that happens. So any question from the group, or I can move on? As Isabel was talking, we're also glad to have other keynote presenter, Dr. Langat, also join. So if there is no question for Isabel, I just want to thank you again, Isabel, for taking time.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
And we hope to hear more from you in the future.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. All right. So, Dr. Kiplimo, if I can give you this part just to give us also some few words of welcome as we are talking about the counties. I think maybe he's dropped off. So, Bwana Munyere, if you also have a minute, you can say hi to the group as we move on.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me, George?
Yes, we hear you very well.
Oh, very well, very well. Thank you for having me. My name is James Munyere. I sit at the coffee desk of the Minister of Agriculture. And I would like to thank the convener of this session as a continuation of the discussion on EU deforestation regulation. We need to have to up our level of preparedness and even seek resources for the country to be compliant. We have set up a budget for this, and we are presented to a couple of organizations, and probably in the course of before the year ends, we should be able to know the way forward for the country to be compliant. EU imports around half of the coffee produced in the country. So it's a significant market, and this compliance is very, very important. So thank you for having me, and good day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Munyere, for that, and thank you also for having us and also encouraging us that the ministry is also doing something about it. So without further ado, I want to give the floor to Dr. Kagombe from the Kenya Forest Research Institute to also give us a few.
Morning. Yeah, well, I appreciate this a chance to share a small presentation on how we can harness the issues of coffee in the issue of agroforestry in tree growing. And I don't know whether there's could you share my screen or you can share my presentation, please.
Opportunity.
Please share my presentation. Right, I'm Dr. Kagombe from Kenya Forest Research Institute. I have a background in forestry, but I have also done payment for ecosystem service, as well as also done valuation of forests, and we have worked also with the communities in community engagement in forestry. So my presentation will be on harnessing the potential, the agroforestry potential in coffee sector. And I'll get to the next slide. Yeah. Yes. So you find that the forest cover in this country is 8.83. These are there are discussion about it. In some circles they will talk about 5.9%. We have a tree cover of 12.13%, and forest support livelihoods, being the fuel energy source for 82% of the household in Kenya. It contributes to direct employment for 750,000 and also indirectly to 4 million people. In terms of GDP contribution is about 3.6%, but we are having discussion on how we can enhance that because we feel it's undervalued. In terms of our forest type, the natural forests are at 4%, plantation are 11%, bamboo 4%, and mangrove 1%. And the total ecosystem service for forests, some studies we did showed that forests contribute, the indirect values benefit from forests attribute to 84%. So they are very important. We should not just be looking at the direct values, but also in the indirect values. And plantation forests were actually established to cushion natural forests because they can reduce pressure to the natural forest. Let's go to the next one. There is a government efforts towards accelerated tree cover. And this is an ambitious program of the government where we are to have 15 billion trees planted by 2032. This is equivalent to planting 10,560,000 hectares. These trees will be planted for multiple benefits, for landscape restoration, biodiversity. Also, it will create decent jobs and what we call green jobs. And in this planting, conservation will take 65%, while commercial forests will take that 5%. And this has further been grouped into what each party now will contribute. And you find that commercial tree growing is aimed to bring on board 3.5 billion trees. There is opportunity for commercial tree growing in Nassau and also in private land. And we should also be targeting tree growing and also fruit tree growing. So there is various financing models which I'll be discussing, and we need to think about forestry as an investment. Let's go to the next slide. Next slide, please. So we have had discussion in this country about how we can upscale issue of commercial forestry, and considering that there's a rapid population growth, there's we need economic growth has also been going on. There's rapid urbanization, and so we need to cover the timber deficit in this country, which is about 10,000 metric tons per year. And so how do we cover this? We have to, as we do the issue of covering, there are challenges that when we are thinking of trees, trees, you have to consider what are the alternative land uses. There are also issues of technologies, issues of lack of data, issues of infrastructure also comes in. And there is also lack of adequate information that can guide various entrepreneurs on tree growing, issues of where to put various species, issues of valuation, issues of market outlets, even market specification. And but we have also seen that the issue of commercial tree growing can lead to increment in forest cover. In the case of Sweden, this is what led to Sweden having a forest cover of almost 60%. Let's get to the next slide. So when you think about entrepreneurship in forestry, we need to think about forest. We need to profile forest as a competitive land use option, which has opportunity to create wealth. And we need to come up with a conducive environment for fast-growing species. We need to think about the entire value chain. And when I'm talking about the value chain, I start with the tree seed production. There are also opportunities in tree nursery production, in plantation establishment, maintenance of those plantations, various ecosystem services, harvesting and logging, processing of products, even marketing. And we need to also embrace technologies that can lead to high productivity, also efficient use and of the resources. And also let's also bring on board ICT. We also need to attract youth in forestry. Let's go to the next slide. When when thinking about the business plan for eucalyptus growing, this is a case we have done for Nyandarua. And you find that per hectare, when you are doing it for 9 to 12 years, you can get a profit going to 2.3 million, almost 2.4 million. 2.4 million profit is good enough, and you can be able to get that profit. That is for eucalyptus. Next. We also have seen that some counties like Nyandarua, there are farmers who have a tree growers association, and we also see opportunity that some of these associations, because they are cooperative, they can work within the cooperative system of coffee growing, such that since the various entities, the various farmers are growing trees in small quantities, if they come together, then they can be able to market together. They can be able to even do value addition together. And so they can end up getting more returns. So Nyandarua, they have those tree growers association. They have formed it even to a cooperative, and we can we can take advantage of the very existing good structures of coffee cooperative. So I just wanted to show a case for Nyandarua, and they have they are getting almost to 1,000 hectares under their tree growers association. Next slide. Next slide. Next, please. Next slide. Can you give me the next slide, please? As I get the next slide, you can see in terms of what Nyandarua they are doing, they are also contributing to issues of carbon, because when you are growing trees, you are also using carbon. Those trees are stored in carbon. I don't know whether I have lost the slides. The Secretariat, please. So you find that like in the case in Nyandarua, they are also those trees are also storing carbon. And maybe as we get the presentation back again, the next I wanted to discuss now how you can bring on board coffee, the issue of coffee. No, I think there was a slide about coffee. Opportunities. The opportunities which are there for coffee farmers, because we are now talking with the coffee farmers. And one, there is issue of tree seed correction. We find that there are some tree seeds like Agroforestry, which we normally get from farmers, and we can be able to work with the farmers in the correction of those seeds, because we just need to train them on proper seed correction. There is tree nurseries. The tree nurseries, we can have integration of existing nurseries with the tree and fruit seeding production. We appreciate that coffee farmers, especially cooperative, have already very good nurseries which have existing infrastructure. All what we need to bring on board is now coming up with nursery trees. If it is a grafting technology which is done for coffee, it's the same grafting technology is done for fruit trees. So if the farmers could have, where they have the nursery, then they have another part section which can have trees, they can make money. Even some of the seedlings we are talking about could be a good income generation for the farmers. We are talking of like seedlings like the one for sandalwood, one of the endangered species. Sandalwood species, just one can go for up to 300 shilling, and they are in very high demand, and we don't have people who are producing. Then we can talk of agroforestry, where we are planting trees, suitable trees with the crop with the coffee trees, and we need to go for the suitable species, and this is a practice which has been going on and which can be enhanced. We also have boundary planting, where farmers plant trees along the boundaries, and this can also be create quite a bit of tree cover improvement. Some farmers can be able to come up with forest woodlots, where they reserve some part of the area which is not planted with the coffee or other crops. They reserve it for woodlots. I've also discussed with some farmers. You find that some of the coffee farmers also have land where they can put other commercial forestry. And this is where you can work with us, work with the other entities to come up with a commercial forest entity, which can make them have good money. You grow trees as an enterprise. And part of this growing is also growing high value trees. High value trees, we are talking of like sandalwood. In dry areas, we have been able to come up with a tree called Meria Volkenstein, Mokau. It's doing very well. It's an indigenous tree, hardwood, that is maturing within 15 to 20 years. And its growth rate is even higher than eucalyptus. So these are areas where we can be able to upscale those trees growing. Also, making briquettes from husk is another area where we can be able to, because you have the waste from husk, can make briquettes. We can also tap carbon market. And as you do tree growing, it's possible to register these tree growing activities, especially when you are doing them within cooperative. And within cooperative, you can be able to tap into upcoming carbon market. Next slide. I just want now to, Syed, to just give an introduction of some work we are doing within Carefree and other sectors. This is just read, it's being hosted, there's a center hosted in Carefree, but not for Carefree, but for the whole sector. We are calling it Commercial Forest Innovation Center. And this is an area, a center which you promote adoption and promotion of commercial forestry in Kenya as a competitive land use option. And the center has 6 objectives. One, we want to provide a platform for incubation of technologies and showcasing innovation in commercial forestry. We also want to offer technical advisory services and consultancy for increased productivity in commercial forestry. So if you want to do commercial forestry, you can come, we can work with you. We also want to support development of viable commercial forestry business models. Also, we want to provide platforms for market information and leakages. This is where you can you find that you may have seedlings, but you don't know where to sell. You may have forest products, you don't know where to sell it. And then there's a market linkages within this platform. We also want to strengthen policy and governance in commercial forestry. And we also want to attract increased investment in commercial forestry. Let's go to the next. So the focus will be to make commercial forestry a competitive sector that contribute to economic growth. And we also want to enhance commercial forestry investment in Kenya through providing platforms for generation of technology and ideas. And if you have your laptop or you have your computer, if you type kcfic.org, it will get you to what we are talking about. As I continue discussing, if you type kcfic.org, it will lead you to Commercial Forest Innovation Center. Then you can be seeing what we are talking about. Next. So the center will have, it will provide forest research information. We have done a lot of research in forestry. So this information will be available there. We shall also provide linkages to finance, market, and insurance. We are working with the banks to provide those type of linkages. It will also give advisory services. It will give plantation management solution like pests and diseases. Sometimes you go and then you have a problem of pests and diseases. We shall be able to connect you with a solution. Then it will also give information, both technical and market information. Next slide. Next. So there are proposed activities. We have already, it has market information, financial linkages, extension services. It will also give science laboratory services, like we have laboratories which can test soil in various ecoregions. And we also should also be doing dissemination of information. Let's get to the next. Next. So the output we want to have to strengthen the role of private sector in forestry, and we appreciate that the coffee farmers, they are investors in their own capacities, and they can be able to invest in this sector of commercial forestry as an alternative land use option. We also want to create opportunities to incentivize our youth in commercial forestry, because we'll be able to get to them through digital technologies, capacity development. Then we shall also target dry lands for upscaling commercial forestry with the species which are suitable and which can go with the climate condition of those areas. We want also to facilitate and promote adoption of innovation models in commercial forestry that can attract private sector investment, because private sector is very important, especially in driving the value chain and market linkages. And we are seeing Kenya, we can become a hub of value-added products in commercial forestry, even in the region. We also want to strengthen linkages between research and the industry. Let's get to the next. So I think that's where we are heading. But as one of the party short is, I appreciate the efforts which are being done by the Kenya Coffee Platform, and even what is coming from European Union regulation. It could be a wake-up call for us that we use this opportunity to tap into other opportunities which are there in tree growing. And tree growing, we can be able to aim, first of all, at being self-supporting. If it is the farm, the house at household level, can we have enough material which can be used for firewood? Because in the rural areas, firewood is we use about 80% in firewood. And even for domestic consumption, and those who have larger parts of the land come in and we work together in this journey of commercial forestry and we make money. But we are not saying that we convert. Of course, the EU regulation clearly is saying that you cannot convert a forest to a coffee zone. What we are doing is to enhance tree growing within our landscape, and that will be contributing to what the EU regulations are talking about, because we should not be contributing to degradation. We should not be talking to deforestation, but we can use this opportunity to use the available land to grow trees, and these trees should be able to make money. And the technology in tree growing, technology in coffee farming, there's a lot of reservoir. So we can be able to pull synergies and we work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daktari, for sharing the opportunities that are there, even with some of the challenges that the coffee sector might be getting into. The fact there is a ray of hope of not only using the knowledge that we have as coffee producers, but also diversifying that income. And I can see there are some questions for you, but we'll answer those questions after our next presenter presents. So thank you very much for that, and thank you for that sharing. And we look forward to even collaborating more with KEFRI, even as we work towards ensuring that not only our coffee becomes more marketable, but then we also get advantages of other opportunities that we could get on that particular way. I don't know, Dr. Kiplimo, if you would, if you're available, maybe for a short word, or we move on to the next presenter at this moment. Dr. Kiplimo.
Morning.
Hello, Dr. We can hear you.
Can you?
We can hear you.
Morning, Daktari, but your line is breaking.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Now we can hear you.
Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't join earlier. I think I had some technical hitch, but I'm glad I finally joined.
Karibu sana, and I think on behalf of the participants who don't know Dr. Kiplimo, he's the chair of the caucus of agriculture. So it's good that we welcome you here, Daktari, and you can give your remarks. It's not late. We are still continuing with presentation.
Thank you so much, Karugo, for this invitation and for allowing me to join this platform. As you've heard, my name is Kiplimo Lagat. I'm the CEC member in charge of agriculture and cooperatives at the county government of Nandi. And I am also the chair of the agriculture caucus of all the CECs in Kenya. And this is part of the Intergovernmental Framework Act that allows the county governments to collaborate with the national government and other development partners in matters agriculture sector. And the caucus facilitates that interaction where we have collaboration and coordination of activities, both at the county level and at the national level. So we've been part of the Kenya Coffee platform. And as a caucus, we support the activities and the initiatives that this platform has undertaken, and we are proud to be part of you. There is a lot that is taking place. As you may be aware, agriculture being a fully devolved function, a lot of activities are ongoing. Expansion of coffee production is now ongoing. And I would wish to mention to you that the new project now, the National Agriculture Value Chain Support Development Program supported by the World Bank, which succeeded the NARIC and the KSAP in high potential counties, we have now adopted coffee as one of the key value chains. So in the coming years, you'll see a lot of expansion and production and even productivity in the subsector of coffee in Kenya because of this effort. Especially in the western counties, which are taking over from most of the central counties that have had their land squeezed a bit and productivity stagnated for some time. Most of the western counties now are expanding on the area of coffee production and also adopting those productivity technologies. We've been supporting farmers with the teams, the technologies, innovations, and best practices that they need. And I'm happy that through this platform, we are learning a lot, especially on issues of certifications and access to markets, the market requirements. It's quite exciting. I just listened to the previous presenter, and I was very excited to note that we have a lot for our farmers, that I know with the close collaboration and coordination of some of these best practices and efforts, we should be able to enable the farmer to benefit from the market expansion and even access. I would wish also to bring to your attention that with the several policy changes, we are working closely with the national government to stabilize the policy environment so that we don't operate in an environment where we have a lot of uncertainties in the policy environment. I know you are aware we had a coffee conference last month sometime, and there are a lot of policy statements that came out. And I know for the last 2 months, there's been a lot of uncertainties in this space. And a lot of actors probably are at a loss with what exactly need to happen or what is the future of the subsector. But I want to guarantee you that we're working closely with all the actors in the sector to ensure that we get back to stability in terms of that stabilizing and having the policy environment very certain for everyone to be able to plan and invest. We don't underestimate the support that private sector has done in this subsector, and therefore there is we were supposed to, all of us, ensure that everyone has a space to operate in, and they are given that space to do so. With all that, though I want to also probably let us know that counties are also, in the spirit of self-determination, most counties are now supporting the farmers to establish their own mills through the cooperatives, the cooperative unions. We are also supporting the farmers to have their own brokerage entities to be able to participate in the local market and even in the global market, possibly in future. And I think this is something that is exciting for everyone, because we would want to increase what we call farm gate value for every farmer. And I know it's the interest of even every consumer out there that whatever they pay for coffee accrues, or the value, the percentage value that accrues from what they pay for every cup of coffee, the farmer who toils the most benefits from it. And that is the spirit of what we're trying to do in this sector. Otherwise, I look forward to collaborating with all the partners. I would request that you also share all the presentations, so that for those that we missed, we can still follow and probably appreciate what is being shared. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Daktari, and also for sharing what is happening at the county level. As you rightly mentioned, agriculture being devolved in the country then just also means you play quite a central part in that. And without further ado, I want to take this moment and thank you, Daktari, to appreciate this is a commercial break. The sponsor for today's webinar happened to be Solidaridad, but also and Rainforest. But also Solidaridad happens to share on something that Dr. Kagombe has mentioned about, which is then the opportunities in the carbon market. So Kithuka, the floor is yours. Welcome, and then share with us examples of what Daktari has just mentioned. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Like you have heard from George, my name is Stephen Kithuka, working with Solidaridad and based in Nairobi, working as the regional head of programs. I am delighted to participate in this webinar as a speaker and touching on issues around carbon farming, carbon trading. Yeah, so can we move to the next slide, George? Yeah, so basically this presentation touches on unlocking the potential of smallholder farmers around the carbon trade business. And I would want to take a few minutes to just mention who we are as an organization. So Solidaridad is an international civil society organization, of course, with over 54 years of experience in developing innovative solutions to make communities more resilient and create more sustainable supply chains. And globally, we are in over 40 countries, and with almost 1,000 diverse local staff. So, like I've said, our innovative solutions support the transition to an inclusive economy that provides sustainable livelihoods with fair and profitable business opportunities. And these include decent working conditions, fair living wage, and also production in balance with nature, which forms the conversation of this morning. And also trying to also ensure that all people can thrive now and also for the generations to come. And that brief again also feeds into our mission and vision. So can we move to the next slide, please?
Yeah, so like I've mentioned, we are working in 40 countries worldwide, and our representation is in Asia, East and Central Africa, West Africa, Southern Africa, Europe, Latin America, North America, and South America. And like I said, I'm based in Nairobi, and the office in Nairobi takes care of East and Central Africa. Next slide. Yeah, so at a glance, we are currently, can we go back to the previous slide, George, please? Yeah, so like I mentioned, we are headquartered in Nairobi with country and programs in Kenya, Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Uganda, but also having outreaches in the DRC, Burundi, Rwanda, Cameroon, Gabon, and Chad. And our main commodities, of course, we are talking about coffee today. And then we have cotton and textile, dairy, fruits and vegetables, small and small scale gold and diamonds, leather, livestock, palm oil, sugarcane, tea, maize, all just call them cereals, where we have maize, we have barley, we have sorghum, we also have cocoa, and we also have pulses where beans is part of that portfolio. And of course, we have an array of donors. Just to mention a few, we have the Dutch National Postcode Lottery, Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the European Union, Danida, Arbitras or Rapid Development. We have Comic Relief Fees, Development Cooperation, World Bank, Shell Foundation, IFAD, Hub Bank, ICAM, and Syngenta Foundation. But these are just some of the donors that we have. Next slide. Now, just now to get into the conversation of today about carbon markets. First, I just want to look at what we have currently. And if you look at the international carbon credit market, we have two types. We have the voluntary markets and we have compliance markets. So what we have done as an organization is that we are focusing only, in the time being, we are only focusing on voluntary markets. And if you look at the voluntary markets, you also realize we have three types of credits. And one of them is removal, then we have reduction, and we have avoidance. But as an organization, we are also looking at the removal type and reduction. So in the removal type, what we are trying to do is we are trying to promote removal of emissions from, of course, now currently in coffee and cocoa, agroforest systems through tree planting and retention. On a reduction, we are looking at promoting reduction of emissions by promoting climate smart agriculture practices that also enable the absorption of carbon by the soils. And again, if you move further, looking at these types of carbon credits, you realize we also have removal type. So we have nature-based and we also have technology-based removal. And as an organization, currently, we are only focusing on nature-based. And for the accounting system, we are looking at the exports, which again is like looking at the actual returns or the proven results, looking at the beginning and the ending value of these farming systems. Now, for us to get there, again, if you look at the carbon market, then you realize we have so many barriers that also limit smallholder farmers to access these kind of benefits. And just to run through the three core barriers that we have identified, the first one is high cost of certification. And in this, you find it's time-consuming process because you have to profile farmers, you have to collect so many parameters in terms of data, and then you have to also look at the farms. All these kind of things, they are time-consuming, and that also leads to high upfront costs for each step in the application procedure. And Therefore, it renders these businesses unviable for the smallholder workers, farmers. Sorry. The next barrier is on high monitoring costs. Again, most of the schemes you find they are manual. So if it's like counting the trees, measuring the growth of these trees, then it's manual, and that's again brings a lot of high costs in terms of visitations, travel costs, time, and all these other things. And also, again, this ensures that there is high recurring costs, again, making the business case unviable, especially for the smaller farmers. And the last barrier that I want to mention today or this morning is a lack of access to fair payments. So you realize that, like another supply chain or trade, then you realize there is a process. And in most schemes, it is the intermediaries and the project developers that gain the most. And therefore, you find the smallholder farmers benefit the least. So if you look at the numbers that we have, it indicates that intermediaries are getting, in most of the schemes, are getting between 40 to 60% of the payments. The project developers, this can be organizations like Solidaridad or another Kanban or organization participating in this, also getting between 20 and 40% of the returns. And the community or the smallholder farmers who are doing all this work, they are getting between 10 and 40%. So if you look at it, these are some of the barriers that have meant it difficulty to have a big numbers of smallholder farmers participating in these carbon markets. Next slide, please. Now, in the next 2 or 3 slides, I just want to share Solidaridad's experience in partnership with the Econ platform. Again, Econ platform is part of Rabobank. Next slide, please. Now, the Econ platform has been designed to address some of the barriers that I've already mentioned earlier. And the Econ has built a global trustworthy technology-enabled and fair marketplace for carbon sequestration. And for the so if you look at it, then we have the Econ platform as a pragmatic and cost-efficient certification process, which ensures that it reduces the time that is supposed to be consumed while profiling and onboarding these farmers into the platform, and further also tries to reduce the criteria that or the parameters that they need to be captured from all this kind of process. And also in terms of the monitoring, the Econ platform has also roll out a traceable satellite-based remote sensing monitoring platform that also enables the remote sensing to measure the biomass across different regions, farms, and that reduces the manual monitoring process, again reducing the time that is spent on all these processes. And the last part to also respond to the barrier on markets. Again, the Econ platform has also decided how their market is structured is that for the Econ platform, which is like the end party in this process, gets around 10%, not around, but gets 10% of the proceeds. Local partners or intermediaries get another 10%, and the remaining 8% goes to the producers. And that ensures that farmers have a fair share of the returns from the carbon sequestration. Next slide, please. Now, our experience started back in 2021 when we did a pilot in Uganda in the Mount Elgon region. And in this pilot, we were targeting 1,000 smallholder coffee farmers. So we managed to profile and onboard the 1,000 smallholder farmers in this region. However, at the end of the year, we only earned 382 farmers who generated positive biomass and created carbon reduction units or the crews. And at the start of 2022, these crews were sold at a price of 21 euros per crew or per carbon reduction unit, amounting to around 37,000 euros. So like I said in the distribution, of course, 80% of this 191 euros went to the farmers. 10% went to the Acon platform, and the other 10% went to Solidaridad. And the reason why the Acon platform and Solidaridad are getting 10% is, of course, to ensure that we also cover or we build some sort of finance that can enable us to reach more farmers. That is the whole essence. And also for the Acon platform is to ensure that because with the remote sensing and all these kind of things, they're also incurring a cost, and that's why they are retaining another 10%. Next slide, please. So from this pilot, of course, it came with some good lessons that we are now taking into account as we go to the scale, to the upscale phase of our intervention. So the first lesson is that coffee agroforest systems have a great potential to reduce emissions, as seen from the from these pilots, where 382 farms sequestered more than 1,771 tons of carbon in 1 year, all in year one. The second lesson is that generating positive biomass and carbon reduction units requires adequate adoption of agroforestry practices. As you look at from the numbers, you realize that 56% of the 1,000 farmers and negative biomass in the pilot. So this might have meant that the farmers cut down trees, or the farmers, for some sort of one reason or the other, their biomass reduced, because we are, like I said, for the exports, we are looking at the beginning and at the end. So if your biomass is this amount at this time, and then after 6-7 months, we realize through the geosensing mechanism, the biomass goes down, then that translates to a negative biomass. So for farmers to generate a positive biomass, then they require adequate adoption of agroforest practices. And then upfront funding is needed to overcome costs to process to the process of linking farmers to the carbon markets. And like I said, we have the profiling, we have the onboarding, and it involves a lot of data collection. So again, for farmers to get into this to get to this process, they also at least need to have upfront funding. And this is very key lesson. Non-carbon benefits to continue to increase farmers' resilience in the long term. And in this, we are looking at increased productivity. We are also looking at increased soil health. So again, and I think this is like the bottom line, because as we approach this entire process, we are not getting to the farmers and giving them the promises of the carbon reduction units and the carbon trading, but we are looking at the non-carbon benefits that, of course, these smallholder farmers will gain. The next lesson is that carbon payments are an incentive and can help enhance the uptake of sustainable climate smart practices. And lastly, strong local institutional capacity and secure land use rights would greatly balance the gender equation. So from our pilot, these are some of the key lessons that we picked. And with these lessons, we have now moved to the scale-up phase of these interventions. Next slide. Yeah, so as part of our upscaling mechanism or interventions, we rolled out the Climate Heroes project. Of course, we call it, it's a multi-national project being implemented in multiple countries in East and also Latin America. And I will just concentrate in Kenya and Uganda, which forms our part of our innovations. So this climate is called From Climate Victims to Climate Heroes in Kenya and Uganda. And the project has a dream of transforming the lives of 60,000 smallholder coffee farmers from climate victims to climate heroes through agroforestry and climate smart agricultural practices that contribute to carbon sequestration. And when we talk about climate victims, what do we really mean? We mean smallholder farmers do not have access to funds to invest into their farming systems. Of course, the farmers use harmful pesticides and fertilizers in their farms. They are confronted by soil erosion. They are also affected by drought and diseases. The farmers cannot access improved varieties and all these kind of sorts. So, and that forms the majority of our smallholder farmers. Now, when we talk about climate heroes, we are looking at farmers that have higher family incomes and can reinvest back into their farms. We are looking at farmers who have trees and soil that can sequester carbon dioxide and provide extra income. We are looking at farmers who have enough shade trees on their farms to protect their crops and also retain water and improve soil structure. We are looking at farmers who have climate resistant varieties. We are looking at farmers who have improved local climate prevention mechanisms. And we're also looking at really creating local entrepreneurs that can also improve on service provision. These are just some of the examples that we are looking at when we talk about moving from climate victim to climate hero. Now, going back to the project, like I mentioned earlier, this project targets 60,000 farmers, 54,000 of these farmers are from Uganda, and 6,000 of these farmers are from Kenya. And so far, we have managed to provide, and this project is running for 5 years, closing in 2025. So far, we have managed to profile and onboard over 50,000 smallholder farmers. And these 50,000 smallholder farmers are coming with around 26,000 hectares already onboarded into their corn platform. And over 3,500 farmers have this year generated 7,700 crews. And these crews have already been traded at a price of 25 euros per crew, generating 194,000 euros. And the buyers for these crews were Microsoft and the Standard Chartered Bank. Again, as part of our upscaling, scaling these interventions, we plan to onboard an additional 100,000 farmers in coffee and other value chains, but basically looking at tea, cocoa, palm oil, and also in fruits and vegetables across Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. So far in Uganda, we have onboarded over close to 10,000 farmers this year, and we aim to distribute these 100,000 farmers across the 3 countries as part of our upscale process. And to achieve this dream, we are looking at 3 main components, and the first component is the carbon farming. And in the carbon farming, smallholder farmers are motivated and given financial incentives to adopt climate smart agricultural practices such as agroforestry, to reduce their use of chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and other inorganic chemicals. Carbon farming entails climate smart agriculture practices that of course fights against climate change and also makes smallholder farmers more resilient to adverse effects, to its adverse effects. And again, just to emphasize that when we talk about agroforestry in our farming systems, again, we are working very closely with the research to also ensure that we don't introduce competing tree varieties with the main crop. The next pillar of this intervention is carbon financing. And in carbon financing, we are looking at financial services and incentives for smallholder farmers that are crucial for carbon sequestration and trading. So that is supporting smallholder farmers with input finance that will be recovered from the crews traded. So again, in partnership with the Econ and Rabobank, we have come up with a financing mechanism that ensures that farmers can get seedlings, can get manure, can get maybe another input that they require to set up these agroforestry farming systems. And how we recover is through the sale of crews. So we are not asking farmers to pay for anything, but if a farmer assigned 10 crews, then part of that payment goes to recover the kind of investment that these individual farmers have received. And the last pillar is on carbon trade. And under the Climate Heroes project, the smallholder farmers are practicing coffee agroforest systems, and the farmers are profiled and onboarded onto the agroforest carbon removal units for organically restored nature. And this is their core platform, and also supported by Rabobank. And then we use this as the platform for the auction. And I think that marks the end of my presentation. That picture you see there, we were issuing the first check to our farmers in Uganda. So I think maybe you move to the next slide. I think this is all that I had. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Stephen. And also thank you for sharing such rich information about the pilot that you're having on carbon and agroforestry in coffee. So I would like to thank the participants. I think we are a few minutes over time, but we also delayed because we did not have many people coming in at the very beginning. But I've just realized that there's a group in Nyeri that instead of joining individuals have joined as a community. We have over 30 people sitting down in front of a screen in Nyeri, and we want to thank them for that. Unfortunately, their screen doesn't have a camera, so we can't see them, but we appreciate you. And we encourage others also to share some of this information together for that. Thank you very much to our speakers. I'd like to give this opportunity to Dinda for a quick word of appreciation as we get some closing remarks from our host today, who is the CEC of Nyeri. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dida Wario, working for Rainforest Alliance as a team manager, Mount Kenya Sustainable Landscape and Livelihoods Program. We are in partnership with Kenya Coffee Platform, who have organized this, and the topics covered today are very relevant to our work in Mount Kenya. We work with smallholder farmers who include coffee farmers, about 25,000 of them, and also tea farmers, and also forest-dependent communities. Every topic presenters presented here are pertinent and key to our work and success. And I want to take this opportunity for all those who have joined, and also for the organizers. It is a good discussion that we have had. Back to you, George. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dida, for the good words, and also for the vote of thanks to all those who've supported and facilitated and been very kind to share their information. So I would like to give this opportunity to Daktari, to Waziri. Waziri is also the secretary of the caucus that Dr. Kiplimo chairs, but he's also hosting us today. We are in the county with the largest forest cover. So Waziri, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, George, and colleagues who are in this meeting, partners. I may not mention you by name or by your titles because unfortunately I joined it a bit late. I was busy briefing my governor in regards to the coffee activity we are hosting in Nyeri today. But I am very glad that I was able to join before this session closed. And I want to really appreciate the partners who have come up with this initiative. I think the whole issue of sustainability in coffee is a very timely conversation. And really, for a long time, those of us in coffee growing regions have seen communities in other areas. For instance, I recently visited some places in Kajiado where people are already benefiting from carbon financing. And if you think about what George just said a moment ago, that Nyeri, for instance, is the county with the largest forest cover, and yet we haven't started realizing the benefits that come with it. Then it tells you something has been missing. So I just want to appreciate our farmers are very eager. The fact that we can be able to use the returns to plow back and improve on our coffee production for us is very, very exciting. So we will be having this conversation with more stakeholders through the day. We will be joined by none other than the Excellency Governor of Nyeri in this session. I know we also will be joined by some members of parliament and elected members of the county assembly. And therefore, we will have an opportunity to continue sensitizing our stakeholder on this very, very important topic. Otherwise, I want to appreciate everyone. And I don't know whether chairman wanted me to close the meeting at that. If there is no other comment from any of our partners, then I want to then declare it officially closed.
Thank you very much, Waziri. I think everything that we had today, the discussion, the topics that were covered, indeed, you can see that we are talking about agroforestry, and we have the largest agroforestry area within Mount Kenya. In the Rainforest Alliance, we already have two counties, that is Kirinyaga and Embu, where we are having a project on landscape conservation. We still have 6 other counties that possibly we would like to cover, including Nyeri. And the topic today was really relevant on the areas on how we can be able to sequester carbon sequestration and how agroforestry can be integrated in our coffee programs. So I think what we would like to do is, as far as the questions that may arise, if you pose the questions to us, we'll be able to respond to you directly later on so that we can be able to save on time. Otherwise, on behalf of all those today, we wish to thank you very much. And we hope that you have also gained something out of the opportunities that exist in agroforestry, as well as on the areas of carbon credit. So with that, I wish all of you a very nice weekend, and I would ask Lucy to close our meeting with a word of prayer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Let's pray. Our Lord and our God, we bless your holy name. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for the session that we had. We pray that, oh God Almighty, even as we plan to execute what we have learned, Father, O Jehovah Lord, you are going to go ahead of us. We bless your holy name and we worship you. In Jesus' name do we pray and believe. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you very much
Blessed
for
weekend.
taking time. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.